Yes, before the break we were talking about the violence against women, eradication of violence against women, and the act. I feel that there is a disconnection between the line agencies, the line ministries, when it comes to implementation. Some of them are really not aware of the act, and also, like we said, the services that they should be providing.
That's right. I mean, sometimes you hear of magistrates who haven't heard about the act. Let alone the police or the line ministries.
It's 7 years since the act.
That's right. It was passed in 2005, and it's high time that people heard about it.
So, do you think that we need to do a lot of work with regard to basically educating the resource persons?
Yes. Sometimes it's not enough to just pass the law and for it to sit gathering dust. You have to make people know about the act so that they can use
especially the resource people, the people that would be.
Yes, definitely. The lawyers, the judges, the line agencies,
the ministries,
the service providers, all of them must be made aware of what is available as a remedy for people who have suffered domestic violence. Otherwise, the trouble people had to pass this law in Parliament.
Amidst so much of opposition.
So much of opposition.
And there's also talk saying that it might be abolished, and when countries like Pakistan, of course India, most countries have an act to eradicate violence against women, a domestic violence act, and Pakistan, Bangladesh, these countries are dying to basically, they've drafted the acts and they're trying to get it passed. And every country, if you are talking about true democracy, and if you're talking about, because when we talk about the Millennium Development Goals, women and children are basically the predominant groups that the UN is concentrating on.
That's right.
And even though, gender indicators in this country would show very positively with regard to education and health, but we have our hidden grey areas as well.
And like we discussed, when it comes to women's representation,
violence against women.
We do very badly in that sector. But going back to the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act, yes, I've also heard, I don't know whether these are just rumors.
I think it's a rumor because, there are 13 women in the Parliament right now.
Yes.
And we have a very strong women's caucus, and the women's caucus will fight tooth and nail.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Keep it in place. It's a misconception that society has. Just tell me the positive sides of the act.
See, the Prevention of Domestic Violence Act gives a civil remedy. It's not like the penal code. It's not a criminal thing. Because most people, when they do face violence, they are afraid to take criminal action against their family members. This provides a civil remedy. So you can go to the magistrate's court and get a speedy remedy for anything that, if you are scared that something's going to happen to you, or if something has already happened to you in the domestic sphere, you can get a remedy. And you know how the legal system is. Usually you go to the courts and you have to stay for years and years and years. This tries to prevent that, so you can get something very quickly, a remedy very quickly. The other advantage is that for a long time it was only physical and verbal violence that was recognized. This act recognizes psychological and emotional violence. I think that's very important, because sometimes you may not have scars to show, outward scars.
And it's a gender neutral act.
It's a gender neutral act. It can be a man or a woman
or a child
who gets a remedy.
The success stories, because I've heard WIN talking about Women in Need, the institution I have been talking about, out of 100 cases, 80 would go through counseling, and they would get back together, and they would have very successful unlike the parliamentarians were scared that this is going to break up families, no, it's not going to break up families. It is to put an end to
families. It's to put an end to the violence that's going on. If through counseling you can get back together, that is also,
and making the perpetrator aware